Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Lisa Millman. I am the specialist again here at the Family Resource Center. We want to welcome you to this wonderful webinar, Mathspace Mastery, Elevating Independent Learning in SOL Prep. I am going to turn it over to Rhonda Davis, and she and her team can introduce themselves.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking time to spend with us this morning as we look through how you as parents and guardians can really support your students in elevating their independent learning and some new SOL prep options. Here today we have our team. So Jonathan is going to take over some introductions.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Jonathan Templin. I am the head of sales with Mathspace. I'm a former high school math teacher, and I've been working with the Fairfax team for about 5 or 6 years now. We're excited to be here today. And Rhonda, she's taken the lead today. She is our head of customer success for North America, and she and I have, both been working very closely with the Fairfax team for a number of years. I want to start with our mission at Mathspace. Our mission is that we believe every student can excel at mathematics with the right help at the right time. And we want to be the right help at the right time for every student. So this session today, we're hoping will provide you with some tools for how your students can be helped by Mathspace. Just a quick overview of the agenda today. We are hoping that by the end of today, you will learn how your students can prepare for the end of year Math SOL assessment. You will see grade level aligned materials. Just a reminder that this session is targeted towards middle and high school students and parents. And you will understand independent learning with Mathspace. I'm going to hand it back over to Rhonda, and I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A. So again, if you have questions for us, please put them into the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and we will do our best to respond to those as quickly as we can. For questions we don't get to, we will circle back at the end and make sure that we're able to respond in time. And with that, I'll hand over to Rhonda.
Thanks, Jonathan. We're excited to get started. Now, first and foremost, we want you guys as parents to understand how your student can access Mathspace. So how do they find Mathspace? The first thing they need to do is log into Schoology, and they're going to see a waffle. From the waffle, they're going to click Clever. When they're in Clever, they're going to see a Mathspace icon. If they're not seeing that Mathspace icon, there is a search button where they can type in the word Mathspace, and they can find that icon there. The other option is if a student is using a non-FCPS device, they are going to go to the website www.fcps.edu. And what they'll see is a Schoology link on the left side in a blue bar. So it looks like this right here. They'll see Schoology, and then they'll be able to follow the same steps to log into Mathspace. If they happen to log directly into mathspace.co, there is a Clever button where they can log in via Clever using their FCPS credentials. So it's pretty simple on how to access Mathspace from either an FCPS device or a device that's not connected to FCPS. We want to make sure that you guys understand how your students can log into Mathspace independently at home. So Mathspace is our main basal resource for Algebra 1 through pre-calculus. It is also available for our middle schools as an additional resource. Now, a basal resource is a textbook. So their main textbook resource is Mathspace for our high schools. So Algebra 1 through pre-calculus. And then they have all sorts of options in the middle school levels. We're going to start by learning how to navigate the student side. The screenshot that you're seeing right here is a student dashboard. As they log into their student dashboard, they're going to see something very similar to this page. If they get lost and they've clicked around too much, they can always click the arrow or the dashboard button that the arrow is pointing at right here to get back to this main dashboard. Now, from this dashboard, they're going to see a number of different options. First, they're going to see a menu across the top where they again can get to their dashboard. They can get to any of the assigned tasks that their teachers have assigned them. They can get to independent work by clicking the Skills tab. And they can also move through our textbook by clicking the Textbook tab at the top. Over here on the pencil, the students will see how much time they have spent practicing in Mathspace and how many skills that they've earned during doing check-ins within Mathspace. Here at the top, we're focusing on their skills focus, what they've worked on most recently independently. They can click into this purple bar that says Start Check-in, where they can begin doing a quick formative assessment on the topic of expressions and operations. This is again very independent. Down here, you're going to see any assigned tasks that your student or your teachers have assigned to your student. Right here, you're going to see the assigned tasks with a description or a title. And sometimes you might actually have to click the View All button. We want to make sure that if your student doesn't see the task that they're expecting, that they can click that View All button to see additional assigned tasks. They also could, of course, go to the Assigned tab up at the top to see a list of what they have been assigned, as well as past tasks that they've completed. Now here, we're going to look at a quick video. I'm going to go ahead and have you watch the video first, and then I'm going to walk through what you see in this video. The basics are a student begins working on solving a problem. If they make a mistake or if they need help, they can ask for hints. They can look at worked examples. They can also get into a textbook lesson to do some additional learning. Now, what we love about Mathspace is as a student begins to work on a problem, we're going to give them all the support necessary in order to be successful in solving that problem. So as a quick walkthrough, you're going to see that this particular question has an equation that needs to be solved, and we see distribution on each side. The student here begins doing the steps by distributing on each side of the equation. They get a green check mark, meaning that it's correct. Now here they made a mistake and came over to ask for a hint, to watch a video, and to look at a worked example, as well as get into the lesson. They were able to then see where their mistake came from, complete that, fix it, and get on the right track in order to solve that and receive partial credit on that question. So as you can see, we provide immediate step-by-step feedback. That support is tailored to the student's approach. Now, if a student decided to do a different pathway, a different solution pathway, we're going to allow them to enter the pathway that they feel most comfortable. As you know, mathematically speaking, we could divide both sides of this equation by 5. It's still mathematically correct, but probably not the most common solution path. But as long as it's mathematically correct, we're going to accept their answer and allow them to have the support that they need as they move through that in the direction that they selected. And of course, as you saw in this quick little video, We have built-in videos and lessons. Now, one thing I want to point out, which our students sometimes forget, is that it is okay to ask for those additional support resources. They can ask for a hint or watch a video or see a worked example, as well as get into the lesson, and all of that is penalty-free. We want to make sure our students understand that they're not going to be penalized by using the additional support available. It's not like a video game, which is what our students are used to. If they ask for an extra tool, they typically have to pay for that in a video game or earn that extra support. But in Mathspace, we're going to offer that support immediately. And that's the beauty of our step-by-step feedback. We call that our Step Smart technology. As you see, here's another screenshot of a student working through a problem. They began working and they got the first step correct and moved through here, and they got so close that they just needed to finish an answer and just simplify that. Now, if a student needs help, they can click the More button, where they'll learn how to use the workbook and as well as how to report an issue. So if they have a concern with our problem type, we really want student feedback. So if that question is confusing, or maybe the student believes that the solution is incorrect, they can report feedback right here by clicking Report an Issue. We really want to encourage our students to interact with Mathspace, because what Mathspace does is collect student feedback in order to improve our question sets and improve the program that Mathspace has available for our students. Now keep going on asking those questions in the chat. We're going to do our best to answer those as quick as possible. If there's a question that needs to be answered live, my team will stop me and say, hey, let's really answer this question really quick. So keep up on asking those questions through the chat or through the Q&A. We appreciate that interaction. We're going to focus a little bit of time on the different types of practice that your student has available within Mathspace. We've now created some SOL prep work. This prep work has been assigned to each student across the district in our middle schools and high schools. We are very, very excited for this additional tool to help your students prepare for the SOL. Right here from this main dashboard, if you click the dashboard button, you'll see an SOL review task according to the student's grade level. So this particular student is a 7th grade student. So you're going to see the 7th grade SOL review right here. So it's very easy for a student to click in there and begin working on this SOL review task. And again, as a reminder, if they don't see that task, they can click the View All button, because we have a lot of teachers who are actively assigning tasks. And so maybe that won't show up right away, and they'll need to click the View All so that they can see the whole selection of assigned tasks. When they click the View All, they can see a number of things. They can see the active tasks as well as the past tasks. Now, this is an exciting feature that's going to allow our students to really redo and practice that SOL task that they've completed. Once they've completed it, they can click into the past tasks. And if they need to, they can start right here on the Assigned button, click that past tasks, and then find that SOL task review. When they click on that, they're going to see the performance that they had across all questions within that task. I'm pointing to question number 3 right here, where my student received partial credit. I know that they received partial credit because the dot is yellow. The dots that are green mean that they received full credit, while the ones that are red means that they did not receive credit on that question. Now, the red may be because they made a number of mistakes or they clicked the skip step button. And so they needed some extra support on that. So what we strongly encourage our students to do is go to that past task, look at each of the questions that they got partial credit or no credit on, and practice that problem again. It's as simple as clicking the practice this problem again here at the bottom. Now, we have also built in a spreadsheet for extra help that we will share with students and parents across the board. And this is going to allow our students to have even more additional practice to get that instructional and learning piece complete on those questions that they struggled with. So let's go into this spreadsheet right here. Here is the web page that you can go right to that, or you could click the QR code to get into that spreadsheet. Let's look at what that looks like for our students. Right here, you're going to see a spreadsheet, and you'll see the grade levels across the bottom right here. So if my student was a 6th grade student and they looked, actually, we're going to select a 7th grade student because that's what we were looking at before. If they missed question number 1 right here, we can see the SOL code that is accompanied in that particular question set. And we are going to see practice links for that particular subtopic or question your student is struggling on. They'll simply click into that, make sure that they're logged into Mathspace, and they'll be able to practice in an adaptive task that particular skill that they were missing. Now, again, that skill is aligned to the question that they struggled on within that SOL review task. The other option that you might find is you may find that teachers do this for you, and they would then assign a lesson and perhaps an adaptive task for your student to work on based off of the results. And again, those are going to show up in the assigned tasks area for your students. So if we were to click on comparing rational numbers, it's going to open up an adaptive task for your students to begin practicing. Now, this is going to be shared across the board so that teachers and parents and students have access to this additional practice support. So let's paint a picture right here. We know that the SOLs are coming up very soon, and we might be concerned about how ready our students are to take that SOL test. What they would begin by doing is completing that SOL review task from their assigned task list. They're going to then review the results and see which questions they need to continue practicing. First, they can click the practice button again, but they also could come here and they could click on the question that they missed and begin an adaptive task on that particular skill that they had struggled with in the SOL review test. I'm really excited. This has been a work in progress, and it's been a very collaborative effort between our FCPS math department as well as Mathspace. So this amazing resource has been a great partnership between our two teams in order to provide that extra support that our students might need. Okay, so I hope that that makes sense. And again, you're going to have a copy of this recording in case you need to review the steps that we need to take in order to get to this spreadsheet and provide that extra support for your students.
Rhonda, are you going to be talking about the skills check-ins at all?
Yep, we're going to do
Okay,
the skills
great.
check-ins in just a minute.
Thank you so much.
So we're focusing right now on that SOL review task that's been created, and now we're going to go into some student independent work that they can work on. From here, before we talk about student independent work, we're just going to help you understand the difference between what a student can work on independently, as well as what a teacher may be assigning. You'll see right here, again, a screenshot of a student's dashboard. And again, a list of the assigned tasks that your teachers may be assigning. And it's right here under this assigned tasks. So we really recommend that our students work on those assigned tasks because that's what our teachers are really expecting them to do. Now, when they do that, again, every single one of these tasks, they can go back into. This one was an SOL review task on equations and inequalities. They again can go in to see what their grade was, which questions they answered correctly or incorrect, practice that problem again. And what it's going to do is put them into another question similar to what they struggled with. Now we can click again on past tasks and retry the questions answered incorrectly for that extra practice. And as you can see, we're supported by Milo on the side with those hints and videos and worked examples. We want to make sure that we're there to support our students and really help them understand where their mistakes are coming from, how to correct those, and how to move forward. On the next slides, we're going to talk about student-led practice. There's so many options on how your students can really work independently through Mathspace to help strengthen their foundational skills as well as work on grade level skills. Let's start by talking about grade level aligned materials. Right here, your students have the option to click the textbook button along the top of their menu. Right here, we've looked at selecting this SOL grade 8 textbook. We could look at different textbooks if we wanted to. This student selected identifying functions where they could see a lesson as well as click into a practice tab and start an adaptive task on that particular skill of identifying functions. They also can look at our brand new skills or crosswalk skills book. Now the crosswalk skills book is helping to align the old standards with the brand new approved SOL standards from the state of Virginia. Now this is an easy navigation point. If I have an 8th grade student, I'm going to look at the grade 8 work. In this case, we selected probability and stats, identifying independent and dependent events. And again, from here, we can simply click Start Adaptive Task. Now let's talk about what an adaptive task is in Mathspace. First of all, one of the things that we teach our students is it's okay to make mistakes. So it's okay. We want our students to be fearless on making those mistakes. So make mistakes fearlessly because we're going to support them with the use of hints, the ability to watch a video, as well as read a lesson. Our students' goal is to earn a star as they work through this, and a star is a reward for your students' effort in answering that question. All right, advance, there we go. So as the student walks through this question on question 6, what they're doing is evaluating this. They actually requested a hint, requested another hint, watched a video, and got back on track. And then eventually they earned that star. So remember, again, if a student uses the hints, the videos, or lessons, they will still earn a star. Now, after the task is complete, what we're seeing is their understanding or their mastery of that particular topic that they were working on. So I'll show you in a minute, but I'm going to highlight this as well. This particular student's score was familiar. It has 2 bars right here. If a student only received 1 bar, it means that that skill is emerging. 2 means they're becoming familiar with that skill. and 3 means that they're proficient. While if they had a star above this, it would mean that they had mastered that skill. Now, our goal as a student is to have each one of these rounds of adaptive questions filled up with our stars. So we want to encourage our students to give the best effort. Avoid using that skip step option and make sure they're using those hints available to them, including hints, videos, worked example, and access to those lessons. Now, I wanted to show you a quick video, what's happening behind the scenes in Mathspace. This might be a little confusing, so I'm going to give you a second to kind of just look and see, maybe draw a conclusion about what you're seeing as each of these nodes light up and how the colors change. Let's just take a second to kind of look at that and see if we can understand what this means. This is what's happening behind the scenes as our AI-powered continuous assessment engine is working. Now, we know in math that there is a lot of foundational skills that need to be built in order for students to be successful in the more advanced level skills. So as a student begins understanding or make a connection, you'll see that the colors change. They've made more of a connection, therefore, they're ready to learn a new skill. So in our back end, our AI-powered continuous assessment engine is helping us identify which connections have been made and which connections are ready to be formed. Now, sometimes as a student may struggle in harder level questions, we may need to go backwards to secure that skill and make that connection so that we know that the foundational skills are solid. This is just a little peek about what goes on in the back end as your students are working through. We're looking for them to make those connections so that they're ready to continue on. Pretty exciting stuff. We call this our knowledge graph so that we can really understand exactly where our students are at and what they're ready to learn. Now, as they go through this, what we're going to talk about right now is the student skills map. So these are our check-ins. So if you've ever had your student look at the skills check-ins, this is what we're going to look at right now. This is a great way to identify and fill in foundational gaps that your student might have. So let's begin by clicking the skills tab across the top. This is going to open up into the skills map. Now, this happens to be a grade 7 skill or grade 7 student, and we've looked at all topics. Now, the way that our skills map works is we are asking our students to do 3 discovery check-ins on each of the 3 standards or domains. You can see that this student needs to start the initial discovery check-in. Now, to be completely transparent, those initial discovery check-ins are a little lengthy, but the goal is to understand and really discover where your students are at right now in their learning path. So they're going to begin by starting a discovery check-in right here. Once that's complete, it's going to open up their skills map. Now, I really love the option of looking at it in the all skills right here. So instead of looking at the topics button, I highly recommend that you look at the all skills. Now, what you're seeing is each of the skills that your students have been able to master or show proficiency on across the prior grade levels as well as their current grade level. So again, this is a grade 7 student. Right here is their grade 7 understanding or the area that they need to work on, as well as an idea of the foundational skills that they need to continue working on. The goal for our students is to get at least a 3 on each one of these because a 3 means proficient. So let's take a minute to understand what each of these numbers mean. If you see right here a star, that means that that particular skill has been mastered. If you see a 3, it means that that student is proficient in that skill. A number 2 means they're becoming familiar with that skill. A number 1 means that they're emerging, so that skill is beginning to emerge with your students. And the white circle with the gray band around it means that they've either not been tested on that, or they can't prove quite any mastery or proficiency on that particular skill. So what I always tell my students is to go back and look at some of these foundational gaps that they may have and click on anything less than a 3 and begin working. As you can see in this slide, the student clicked this number 1, which is practical problems with systems of equations, and they have 2 options. First, they can click practice skill. That's going to open up the information or the foundational skill that they need to begin practicing, and they'll click start practice. What that does is put them into that adaptive task to really help support them in their learning. Now, what's unique about our Mathspace adaptive tasks is that instead of adapting just through a grade band, so this is a 7th grade student, and instead of adapting just through that grade band, we actually adapt through the skill. So this is practical problems with systems of equations. So as we begin working through that skill, we're looking at more of a vertical alignment. Instead of horizontal, where we're just working through a specific grade band, we're actually looking at the skill itself vertically. So as a student begins to do really well, we're going to challenge them with harder level skills about systems of equations. Now, if they are missing some foundational skills, we're actually going to go backwards to pick up those foundational skills and help them solidify and close that gap. The other option a student has here is to click a start check-in. Now, the start check-in is a quick little formative assessment. It's actually only 2 questions to see if your student can master or show proficiency on that particular skill. So I recommend the flow of this as your students begin working through their recommended practices and through their skills map. They're going to practice the skill first. We want to make sure that they practice it and they understand the skill, and then they're going to check in on that. Now, new to Mathspace is as soon as the student completes the practice assignment or that adaptive task, they're actually going to be automatically put into a 2-question check-in. So they won't have to come back here, figure out where they were, and then click start check-in. They'll be prompted to do an immediate check-in after that adaptive task. So to wrap up where we're at right now, let's kind of review the agenda that we had today. So first, we learned how to help our students prepare for the Math SOL assessment. That Math SOL assessment has been assigned to every single student in FCPS in the middle schools and the high schools. They're going to find that on their assigned tab. Now remember, as soon as a student completes that SOL review task, they can go in and begin practicing. Their teacher also has the ability to reassign that if they want. So they really could reassign that as additional practice if they wanted to, but that's up to this teacher. And our focus today is how you can support your students in that SOL prep. So make sure that you assign that, or you have your students access that assigned task, complete it, and then go back in and begin practicing those questions. We talked about grade level aligned material. Now remember, we visited the textbook where they could go through each of the units, start an adaptive task, or look at the lesson and do that on grade level activities so that they can be working at the grade level that they're assigned. And then finally, we talked about understanding independent learning with Mathspace. Now that independent learning, again, can be done through the textbook and the adaptive tasks in the textbook. It can also be done by doing those check-ins. And again, to do that, you're going to click the skills button. The students will need to complete the discovery check-in, and then they'll be opened up a skills map where they can really work independently. And again, what I love about the skills map is that students have the ability to really hone in on the skills that they need to work on. And you won't see that two student skills maps are identical, because it is very, very unique to each student and how they are doing. So at the end of this webinar, my big question is, do you feel prepared to support your students with their independent learning in Mathspace? If you need some more support, you can always check out our Mathspace support page and look at additional resources there. But again, just to remind you, the students log in via Schoology and then Clever, log in using their Clever credentials, and come to Mathspace. From there, you'll see your dashboard where you'll see the SOL review task, as well as the skills tab where they can move through independently. So I'm going to turn just a minute over to Erin at the district or the division office to see if we want to answer any additional questions, or if she wants to add any context. I'm going to go back to that bit.ly link on the slide where it showed the SOL review, so that you guys have an option or an opportunity to write down that web address instead of just using that QR code, so that you can see exactly how to support your students using that spreadsheet that was created. Looks like Erin also popped it in the chat.
No, that's a different web link, Rhonda. Sorry. I just wanted to clarify that students who are, it's by building. And so students who are in our middle school buildings, in our high school buildings, that is who has access to Mathspace as their main textbook. So the link that I put in the chat shows you which resources students have access to, because there was a little bit of confusion about our sixth graders, and we have 3 middle schools that have 6th grade, and so it's by buildings, not by the particular verse.
Perfect.
Thanks everyone.
And it looks like Lisa popped in a link as well about evaluating this session to see if you have any additional questions or anything like that. So we have a really great question in the Q&A that says, I'm not certain how the students have been oriented to this system. That's a really great question, Donna. It really depends on the school and the teacher themselves. So our goal today is to say, you know what, even if Mathspace is not being utilized actively within a classroom, students still have the ability to go in here and do independent work. So regardless of what they're used to using in their classroom, they can do that. Now I'm going to go back to the login page. Sorry, it's going to take a second, just so that you understand how students can get in there regardless of what their teachers have been doing within their class. So again, they're going to log into Schoology and click the waffle and select Clever. And from there, they're going to click on the Mathspace icon. If they're not using an FCPS device, they can go to the website fcps.edu. That Schoology link is on the left in a blue bar right here, and then they'll follow the steps up there.
Any last minute questions?
I love questions.
Yeah, any last minute questions? Please put them in the chat or in the Q&A.
Fantastic. We have a question that says, will we be able to review this recording seminar at our leisure? Lisa, the answer is yes, correct? We're going to be able to share this out. That's fantastic.
Yes.
And that
And
should be
I'll
shared
post
out to
it on,
everyone who registered.
right, we'll send it out to everyone that registered, and it'll be on our Family Resource Center YouTube page.
Yep. It looks like Vivian had a question, and it says, are most students in FCPS using Mathspace in the class? Yes. We just have different varying levels of usage because every teacher likes to use Mathspace just a little bit different. They will also have access to Mathspace throughout the summer, which is so great because sometimes we don't know what to do with our kiddos in the summertime, and we don't want them to experience that dreaded summer slump where they're not quite practicing their math, and sometimes they get a little rusty on those skills. So using Mathspace is a great way to help them continue brushing up on those Mathspace skills or their math skills over the summertime. And again, super easy to access that independent work by going to their skills tab. Erin, there's a great question that you might need to answer for us in the Q&A.
Hi, Christy. Any of our 8th grade students who will be transitioning to 9th grade, they will have access this summer, but any of our students from elementary to middle, they will not have access. Thank you.
So rising 7th graders at Frost, I believe they do have access because, oh, not the rising 7th graders.
Any last minute questions? So is there an elementary school equivalent? So Discovery Math.
So when your children go, as you look at Rhonda's page, on that waffle, when they plug into Clever, you can see all of the different resources that students have access to. And it's not just mathematics. That's also where they see resources for science, resources for English, resources for social studies. And so that is where you'll be able to kind of see what access to the different programs that students have access to.
And those will be open over the summer as well. So availability to access really depends on your student's grade level currently. So hopefully we've answered that. If Erin wants to add more context to that as well, it really depends on where they're enrolled right now. That enrollment will continue through the summer until we re-roster at the beginning of the school year. And then those students going into our 7th grade classes will then have access depending on the schools. So.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This has been an invaluable webinar. As Rhonda said, we will share the recording and I will post it. So thank you and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for your participation and great questions. I love seeing the Q&A and the chat just bursting and blowing up. That's great. Hopefully this was a valuable session for you. You now know how to support your students through the rest of the school year as well as into the summer. Thanks so much.